A warning that this special report from Sam Holder does contain footage of some of those attacks.
From a grandfather being punched so hard he didn't realise he'd been hit, to teenagers being spat at, sworn at. Here, ultra-Orthodox men being chased with a stick. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. Last year, the worst on record in London. We'll get to the causes later, but first, hear the impact it has, especially on young minds. These are the experiences of Jewish students in the capital. How many of you personally have faced anti-Semitism or know someone personally who has? So every single one of you.
I've also been told to go back to the gas chamber, which obviously hit home a lot because my family have been in the gas chamber.
They sort of pointed towards the showers and was like, does this bring back any memories?
Someone rolled down the window shouting out, "Are you filthy Jew?" and honked the horn at me. It makes you feel kind of unsafe in your own area that you live in.
How many of you feel that you have to hide being Jewish when you're out and about in the capital?
When you get out of school, like, my thought is to take off my kippah, take off things that make me Jewish and make me proud to be Jewish, because I'm worried I'm going to attract negative attention to myself that I don't need and I don't want. And
purely by looking a certain way.
That shouldn't be the case. I should feel proud to wear what I want and express my religion in the way that I feel necessary.
We just felt the right thing to do. We both kind of looked at each other, took off our kippah, just kind of looked more un-Jewish.
So, in your words, you made yourself look un-Jewish?
Essentially, because I don't want to get picked on. I've seen anti-Semitism firsthand, so, you know, I'm always worried it's going to happen again.
Daily decisions overshadowed by the spectre of hatred.
Does discrimination still happen in this country, even though there is a legislation, a law, that prevents it from happening?
This workshop teaches about the origins of anti-Semitism and how teenagers can deal with the sea of hatred online.
It means that when they hear these stereotypes or when they see these memes about Jewish people, they understand where it's from, and hopefully they can educate the people around them.
Hitler! Hitler!
From verbal abuse and violence to bricks through Jewish windows. Why was last year so bad? Much is down to what happens 3,000 miles away, as explained by the Community Security Trust, which monitors anti-Jewish hate.
We've seen in previous years that when Israel is at war, the amount of anti-Semitism in this country, the abuse and the threats and the attacks directed at British Jews because they're Jewish, always goes up. So last year, when Israel and Hamas fought a war in Gaza and in southern Israel, we knew we'd see the same thing again this year. But the extent of it, the scale of the increase and the impact it's had on the overall total is really unprecedented.
Both accepted definitions of anti-Semitism say it's unacceptable to hold Jewish people responsible for what happens in Israel and the Palestinian territories. Some community leaders say slow police responses and a lack of prosecutions are emboldening racists and anti-Semites.
Sadly, most incidents are not dealt with. Just yesterday, a Jewish boy was attacked, a young Jewish boy, and we called the police, and it took them over 2 hours to turn up at the scene. We don't hear anything regarding dealing with the perpetrators of the crimes.
The police confirmed to ITV London hate crime is getting worse and said we have refreshed our overall approach to tackling hate crime in order to provide better support to victims to enable a stronger response towards offenders. The police do provide protection, especially outside already heavily fortified synagogues, protection against random attacks. But we should ask, how did this become normal? The chief rabbi says overall life is good for Jewish people in Britain, but he's concerned about decreasing levels of Holocaust education and increasing conspiracy theories.
I would like to call to all those who are watching this interview right now not to tolerate any forms of anti-Semitism. Well, the more that people crack an anti-Semitic joke or mention a particular jibe or unkind comment and it goes by unnoticed and uncensored, then the more legitimate such activity becomes. So therefore, we need to remember, and this is a lesson with regard to anything that's wrong that is committed in our midst. Once you keep quiet, you're part of the problem.
This problem shouldn't just worry Jewish people. Anti-Semitism is a bellwether for all kinds of hate. There was one last question I asked the students earlier.
How many of you feel proud to be Jewish?